Luke 10:38-42 from the New Revised Standard Version. Jesus visits Martha and Mary. Now as they went on their way, he entered a certain village, where a woman named Martha welcomed him into her home. She had a sister named Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to what he was saying. But Martha was distracted by her many tasks. And so she came to him and asked, "Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her then to help me." But the Lord answered her, "Martha, Martha, you are worried and distracted by many things. There is need of only one thing. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken from her." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Last August, Zoe Fenton went to a feminist summer camp for grown women. It's full of nostalgic activities such as making friendship bracelets, campfire songs, and s'mores. And 3 days of presentations and discussions on how to stop saying, "I'm sorry," for everything. Women, she said, are taught to apologize for the slightest hint of trouble. There's heads bobbing out there. You're going to hear something you already know. Taught to apologize for the slightest hint of trouble. Bump into someone? I'm sorry. Take too long to find your credit card to pay?
I'm sorry.
We're sorry to diffuse tension, where we say sorry to express regret, to joke, and even try to ease the pain caused by others, apologizing to the store clerk for the rude behavior of the person in front of her. Women, she said, say sorry when we fail, and we even say sorry when we succeed. When Naomi Osaka defeated Serena Williams in the US Open in 2018, she didn't beam with joy. She apologized for winning. So Zoe decided to try an experiment when she got home. 7 days without letting the word sorry escape from her lips. And the temptations came fast and furious. I wanted to apologize to my husband for having to take a shower, to my cat for being away so long, and to my friends for missing a dinner party the night I got back. But she did it. She caught the words before they left her mouth, and instead simply told her husband, "I'm going to take a shower." She told her cat, "I missed you," and to her friends she explained, "I need to stay at home to catch up on some rest." Over the course of the week, she was tested over and over, wanting to say, "I'm sorry for having a stomachache, for heavy traffic, and I'm sorry my hips are too wide for that narrow diner booth." Zoe said, "No one else probably noticed, but I felt lighter, less slouched, and more confident. Instead of saying, 'I'm sorry I'm late,' I said, 'Thank you for waiting.' And instead of apologizing for another customer's behavior, I said, 'Wow, that person was rude.' But the best thing she said was that after a week of sorry detoxing, when real apologies were needed, they meant something. Instead of a ritual sorry, now when I say it, I mean it. I understand why you're upset. I hurt you, and I'm sorry." It's liberating, she said. But overcoming a lifetime of conditioning is hard in a culture that teaches women to apologize for everything, whether they've done harm or not. Not apologizing is a quietly radical act.
That's right.
It's radical because men keep demanding it. As Melissa Blake writes, powerful men use it as a tool, a weapon even, to suppress strong, confident women by making them feel humiliated, ashamed, and small. We surely saw that this week, didn't we?
Yes.
As the goal of the tweeter in chief. And without the slightest hint of irony, He demanded the radical left congresswomen must apologize for the foul language they have used and the terrible things they have said. I mean, doesn't that make your head want to explode? The terrible things they have said? And what are the consequences if they refuse to apologize, especially women of color? A crowd of red hats will gleefully foam at the mouth and roar with the familiar refrain of racists, send her back. What's one way we know Jesus was human? Sometimes he could act like a jerk. Not presidential level, of course. But nonetheless, sometimes he said things that weren't cool. And Jesus is a friend of mine, so I mean no disrespect, but sometimes we need our friends to be honest with us. And so I simply have to say, Jesus, how you treated Martha wasn't okay. You chided her. You scolded a grown woman. Martha, Martha, you're worried and distracted by many things. There's only need of one. Mary has chosen the better part, which will not be taken away from her. Hey, Jesus, you can affirm Mary without turning sisters against each other? Saying one way is better than the other? It's not a competition. But once you said those words, what else could Martha have felt but diminished and ashamed to lower her head, step back, walk away, repeating, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And Mary? Do you suppose she felt very good about this either? So scholars and commentaries offer all kinds of explanations and some excuses. And with some, I agree, this short text has been rightfully used to argue in favor of women's theological education. Mary sat at his feet just like a rabbi in training would. This text has been rightfully used to support the balance of active and contemplative life, to the value of being as well as doing. This text is exceptionally important for that. And it's also true, it probably wasn't good for Martha to involve her guest in what appears to be an ongoing dispute. Martha breached hospitality by doing that. She made Jesus feel uncomfortable. Which means, did Jesus deserve an apology from Martha? So among the explanations and excuses is one that Jesus' words were meant as an invitation rather than a rebuke. That Jesus invited her into a new reality. But if that was the case, wouldn't he have said, come over here, take a seat, join our conversation, and I'll get the other disciples to prepare a meal. His brusque words to Martha seem so out of context, of character for Jesus. Although he did treat at least one other woman the same way. He was rude to the Syrophoenician woman when she asked for healing for her daughter. He said, it's not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. Excuse me? But she argued right back, didn't skip a beat. Even little dogs get to eat crumbs from under the table. And for her bold response, Jesus healed her daughter. So the excuse for his behavior was that Jesus was exhausted by all the demands placed on him. So he didn't really mean to be rude.
Mansplaining.
He didn't really mean it. How familiar does that sound? How often does that get thrown around? He didn't really mean it. He's a good guy. I've known him for years. Racist, sexist, homophobic language and abuse are constantly excused by, he didn't really mean it. Our new book club read Austin Chang Brown's memoir about being a black woman in a world made for whiteness. And as have others, she said, white people have an uncanny need to excuse away the racist behavior of other white people. The words, he didn't really mean it that way, have fallen off my own lips to my own husband. And for that, I say here, and I have said to him, I am sorry, that was wrong. and stop doing it. And yet otherwise Jesus did repeatedly speak up and act on behalf of women. He was constantly challenging a deeply patriarchal world. Perhaps most notably when the men expected Jesus to denounce the woman who kissed and wiped his feet with her hair, very sensual act, he not only defended her, he praised her. Men said, make her apologize. Proper women don't do such things. And he said, she understands the nature of my ministry more than any of the rest of you. And Judas chided the woman who bought expensive perfume to anoint Jesus. He said that could have been sold and the money given to the poor. Yeah, from a man about to sell Jesus down the river for 30 coins. Oh, but she's the problem. Throughout the Gospels, Jesus honored women by revealing and confirming his identity to them. For example, the Samaritan woman at the well with 5 husbands, and Martha. In the Gospel of John, so this story we had was Luke, this one from John, Jesus told Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. And she responded, and she was the first person ever to do so, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who was to come into the world. Martha may be best remembered for being too concerned that her guests be taken care of and well fed. But we should never forget, she was the first to boldly affirm that Jesus is the Christ. Some communities in southern France remember her exactly that way. They elevate her in a way I have never heard before. And I want to share some stories I learned this week. So after the death, resurrection, and ascension of Jesus, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus began to spread the good news. But during a period of persecution in the year 45, they were among a small group put into a boat and left to drift on the Mediterranean Sea without oars or a mast. In some traditions, they then landed in Cyprus, where they preached and taught until they died and were buried there. But other traditions tell that the boat kept sailing until it reached the south of France. And when everybody went their own way, Mary found retreat near Marseille, a cave in a rock 2,800 feet high, where she spent the next 30 years of her life in prayer and contemplation. 7 times a day, at each canonical hour, she was, quote, raised in the air by angels to pray, and afterwards placed gently on the ground where she ate the same heavenly food as the angels. And occasionally she left her place of solitude to, quote, pour the honey of the words which flowed from her mouth into the souls of listeners. Sounds like Mary. The ever-energetic Martha, on the other hand, kept busy, going up and down the banks of the Rhone River and in the towns of Avignon and Arles, cleansing lepers, restoring paralytic persons, raising the dead, giving sight to the blind, hearing to the deaf, sound walk to the lame, strength to the feeble, and health to the sick. Busy, and probably had to provide supper for dropping guests on occasion. So among these stories about Martha, she ate only once a day, and then only roots and the fruits of trees. Barefooted, her head covered with a white turban made from camel skins, she wore sackcloth and a hair shirt, belted with a knotted horsehair rope, which tore badly into her skin. Like a desert mother, her bed was made from branches and vine shoots, with a stone for her pillow. But the most remarkable story is the one in which she tamed a dragon. A terrible dragon of incredible length and extraordinary size, whose mouth exhaled deadly smoke and from whose eyes flames shot forth. It tore everything it encountered to pieces with its teeth and claws. Terrified, the people challenged Martha to prove the power of the Messiah about whom she preached. So undaunted, she walked right up to the dragon's den. She made the sign of the cross, and it immediately calmed down. She then tied her belt around the neck of the dragon and forbade it to ever harm anyone else again with its breath or its bite. And afterward, it lay down and followed her around like a massive dog on a leash. So these stories were not made up to tell at a feminist summer camp in 2019. These traditions date way back to the Middle Ages. Relics of Martha were found in a church in Terrassa, and to this day there are ancient churches and shrines dedicated to the saints Martha and Mary in Provence and elsewhere in southern France that keep these stories alive. Of course, like any legend or tale or fable, the point isn't its historicity, but its meaning. To help us remember, Martha is much more than someone who had a dispute with her sister. Back to the scripture text, if Martha felt rebuked by Jesus for being distracted or preoccupied, it didn't seem to matter. Perhaps she didn't feel rebuked and simply brushed it off and got back to work. That doesn't excuse Jesus. But she didn't express a need, at least, for an apology. After all, tradition says that Mary, Martha, Lazarus, and Jesus had an especially close relationship. They were like family to one another. And yet, the encounter between Jesus and Martha this week just still makes me feel a certain kind of way. And it raised some questions about women and apologies and left me wondering, have you ever thought about how many times a day you say, I'm sorry? Research proves that women say, I'm sorry far more often than men, and are expected to, both by others and oneself. When is it appropriate to apologize, and is it ever appropriate to not apologize? For example, should we take into consideration who is asking and why? For what should we apologize? Maybe like Zoe, sometimes we could simply say thank you for waiting instead of I'm sorry I'm late. And then, isn't it true that only saying I'm sorry when we have actually hurt someone will have more power than an automatic response to a stranger? Of course, I also have questions about what to do about men, including a certain man who uses apologies like a weapon. Someone who needs to apologize but demands an apology instead. Surrounded by men who are afraid of him, terrified of crossing him. I'm grateful for women like the squad who know when not to apologize.